Thank you for joining us. It is February 1st, 2012, and we are about to present an extensive edition of Infowars Nightly News this evening for you. It is teleprompter free as well. Gerald Celente, always informative, is going to be joining us with the latest on MF Global and the vaporized $1.2 billion. More talk by MSNBC, CNBC, Associated Press, by Moody's and others of lowering the U.S. credit rating to the banksters further. It is all coming up after the first break this evening. But first off, the FBI uses chainsaw in raid on wrong apartment. And the woman said she was terrified. They cut the door down without even knocking. Her dog began urinating everywhere. She had to grovel, basically. And I've done reports where they go to the wrong house and kill your dog and don't even apologize, including a Labrador because it barks. I've seen them kill things as small as Chihuahuas, all to try to find drugs. I guess that some small cartel shipped in that they didn't get a cut of. I mean, the government brings in almost all the drugs on record. This has been going on. That's why they made drugs illegal, because they lost alcohol and the cops were getting paid off during Prohibition. So right after that, a year after they got rid of alcohol prohibition, they said, we got to have something new. So it's drugs. And they make it illegal to keep the price up so they make money. And every cop I talk to knows this, okay? The low-level cops, of course, aren't on the take. The detectives and people in most areas are. I mean, I've interviewed Serpico, and I said, how many of the detectives were on the take? He said, all of them but me. And I've seen articles in New York and other cities where they fire over 70% of their detectives. Now they don't. It's just one big happy family. And now they're coming to your house with a chainsaw. At least they didn't kill her. All the time you read about feds, local cops shooting a retired insurance executive because the door's getting kicked down. He gets up with a gun, they kill him, or a remote control in the hand. It's just totally insane. So there is that report continuing here. 19 crazy things that school children are being arrested for in America. Powerful article from the American Dream up at Infowars.com. And not only is playing tag sexual assault, running is a felony. And I don't know how they charge them, but they do it because it's, I guess, a juvenile kangaroo court. And so that's the end of it. You can go read with links in mainstream news with a straight face says, hey, it's good. You know, break a 16-year-old girl's arm because she dropped a crumb on the floor. That's in there. You know, taser people to make them answer questions in the groin. You know, jail time for butter knives. I mean, this is the freedom, total prisoner activity, because tyranny is defined by criminal government. And criminals want an excuse to rob you and torture you and kill you because it's what they like to do. And it's going to get a lot worse. Not all jurisdictions are like this, but more and more that's the standard. Remember, land of the free, home of the brave, it's all about torture. And I'm glad we've got this article tonight because there's a lot of news I end up not covering on the radio. This was one of our top stories. I didn't get to it. A U.S. Intel director prepares public for false flag event. And this is a big report put out by the Brookings Institute, which is like a big CFR think tank. And they've got, you know, some of the top directors of intelligence in here, all quoted by name. You can go read it, saying, quote, it would be far more preferable if the United States could cite an Iranian provocation as justification for the airstrikes before launching them. Clearly, the more outrageous, the more deadly, the more unprovoked the Iranian action, the better for the United States would be. And then they go in to talk about attacking them more internally to get them to do something. And actually, go read this. This is put out by them. Like Gary Hart 5 years ago sent Ahmadinejad a letter saying, we'll stage terror attacks on you, and published it in the Huffington Post. He says, we stage Gulf of Tonkin, we stage other stuff. Yeah, 9/11. We staged the, you know, the incident with the Maine. We'll do it again, punk. And they just gave Al-Qaeda Libya. They're trying to give them Syria. And then lecturing me that some pedophile is going to stick his hands down my pants at the airport because Al-Qaeda. What? What? Look, I see the fraud. I'm awake. It doesn't work. Unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. It goes on here to say, in the hope that Tehran would retaliate overtly or even semi-overtly, which could then be portrayed as unprovoked act of aggression. And they go on to say, that's in a Brookings Institute, Fortune 500 funded think tank, which path to Persia? Like, how do we get to war? Page 84, 85. Considering that the Gulf of Tonkin incident was deliberate fabrication, escalate the Vietnam War, one of many members in Congress are shown to have acknowledged and debated, even at the time, we have links to that, or even more recent Iraq WMD hoax. There is certainly historical precedent to create such provocations when targeted nations refuse to provide them. And they admit they're blowing up bases, assassinating, bombing, killing. They got al-Qaeda attacking them, and then say Iran's with al-Qaeda. That's really rich. With this in mind, and noting a overt, ongoing series of bloody acts of war carried out by the U.S. and Israel inside Iran, along with sanctions and planned blockades, also acts of war, the corporate financier oligarchs have been confounded by what seems to be infinite Iranian patience to endure such provocations. Yeah, it's like the old Westerns where they throw the gun down in front of the kid. They just shot the dad. They throw the gun down in front of the 10-year-old and go, pick it up, I just killed your pop. No, I don't want to, mister. You killed my daddy, but it's not very nice. Pick up the gun. There you go, you little coward. You're not going to do it. And the little kid goes, all right. And the guy goes, because they want to shut down our freedom here during the war and stage terror attacks and blame it on Iran. You understand? This is why they got NDAA and, you know, the pedophile TSA on the streets and all of it. They're getting you ready to protect you from Iran. It goes on here. This is a great article written by Tony Cartolucci for Infowars.com, but I actually highlighted it differently when I covered it on the radio. I'm looking where it actually quotes the Clapper, the head and national security guy in here. I'll just keep reading until I find it. With this, or Control F Clapper, and then just put it on screen. With this in mind, and noting an overt ongoing series, he goes on to say about the infinite Iranian patience to endure such provocations. U.S. foreign policy makers have noted for years now that Iran is actually poses no threat to the U.S. or Israel national security, and their acquiring of nuclear weapons serves more of a deterrence against future military incursions against the Islamic Republic by the West than a means of launching unprovoked attacks against nations that all possess nuclear deterrence of apocalyptic scale, like Israel, with 400 nukes at least. While Iran endures an increased torrent of unprovoked attacks, they steadily advance their defensive capabilities to ward off what seems like an inevitable invasion by the West. There it is. Despite this documented evidence, the Director of National Intelligence, James R. Clapper, Jr., made a startling statement recently, citing an already discredited alleged Iranian plot involving an assassination attempt of a Saudi ambassador on U.S. soil, that Iran is now more willing to conduct an attack on the United States in response to a real or perceived U.S. actions that threaten the regime. So they're blowing stuff up inside the country and admitting it, saying they want to stir them up for a response, but then going on the news like the public are a bunch of jellyfish idiots and saying, Iran says they may attack America. And they did have one of their parliament members who's on the Intelligence Committee actually say that. There's a lot of evidence some of the Iranian government is globalist operatives. After all, the West actually put the mullahs in power. And some of the mullahs may want an attack because they're very unpopular, and an attack has been shown to make them popular because their public will rally around them. So all these thugs, all these tyrants basically want this because it props up corrupt governments everywhere. But Iran generally, strategically, wouldn't want to attack the United States so that they would then be attacked massively and probably invaded themselves. They would attack through proxies like Hezbollah and other groups against Israel and against U.S. targets over there. But that is a big article. U.S. Intel Director prepares public for false flag event, and that is certainly one of the most important news stories we've got for you this evening. Please get it out to everyone you know at Infowars.com. Continuing, Gingrich ballot fraud. Virginia elections officials confirm criminal investigation. Gingrich is being charged so far with 1,500 alleged cases of ballot petition fraud. Well, folks, I mean, there's election fraud through the machines themselves everywhere. It's old-fashioned retail fraud to engage in fraud with ballots. Now let's get into this other article. Hawaii lawmaker acknowledges defeat on bill to monitor all web users. That's right. They've, and Declan McCullough of CNET News also confirms, this is an article by Steve Watson, plans to resurrect legislation in 2013. To give you an idea how out of control government is with their forced fluoridation, forced vaccination bills at the state level. A Hawaiian politician who proposed legislation requiring internet providers to keep records of every website their customers visit, has finally acknowledged the bill is dead in the water. And they went on to acknowledge it's meant to track everything you do and everywhere you go. Well, what do you think SOAP and all these other bills do? By the way, these companies are already saving all that stuff. They just want to legally be able to use it and overturn privacy. And it basically continues to break down different facets of that, so check that article out. Now, here's another one. Sandia Labs, bullet doesn't miss. The patented design doesn't shoot straight. Instead of a spiral rotation, the bullet twists and turns to guide itself towards a laser-directed point. It's basically got little rudders on it. It can make up to 30 corrections per second while in the air. And they've had stuff like this for a long time, but this is the new super weapons that the cowardly establishment's going to use against us, and you better believe this will be kept out of citizens' hands. Just like New Jersey's trying to ban all handgun bullets, period. And these will be fired out of the ground robots they're deploying all over the world and soon against the American people, not just over half the Air Force now drone operated, where the drones make their own decisions that are autonomous. That way the troops can't say no. Oh, the troops are waking up to the New World Order in droves? Well, just go to robots, drones, and robot bullets. Incredible information. Now, before I get to the quote of the day, and before we go to Gerald Celente, I wanted to get into some financial news. But first, Bill Gates funds technology to destroy your sperm. And this is a natural news article, but it cites BBC News and others. Of course, BBC News receives money from Bill Gates to propagandize, so does ABC News, but then they hide that info. You think you're hearing about how he's holy and wonderful and cares about you and your family, just because these publications are all writing that for no reason, though they're being paid. But now they're moving forward with a system to use ultrasound to sterilize men. And then they can offer them cash payments. Or you want welfare? Great, we've got to sterilize you. Of course, already doing it to the water and the rest of it, so there's that report. Now, before we get to the quote of the day and Gerald Celente, I wanted to set this up here because we're going to get into financial news with him. S&P warns of cuts. Another U.S. downgrade coming. And, my issue is this is the same mega banks that actually created all this fraud, now through their ratings agencies they control, who've certified their fraud in the past, saying that governments are beholden to them when it's governments that actually bailed them out. So just amazing information on that front. Continuing here, again, home ownership rates fall to 66% as downturn nears a bottom. They've been telling us it's the bottom for years now. It's a part of a controlled implosion. House prices hit post-bubble low. Politicians out in California say we got to have more taxes and squeeze more people or we're going to go bankrupt. You're bankrupt because you destroyed your economy for consolidation. Here's another one. AA, American Airlines to cut up to 15,000 more jobs. And of course, because they're bankrupting all the other airlines right now with the TSA groping to where it's only business flyers that have to fly. It's all part of shutting down our movement in the country. People say, doesn't TSA know $40 billion in tourism's lost every year? Yeah, they know, up top. That's why they're going to make it as bad as it is so you won't fly. If they need to grope your 2-year-old daughter and go in her pants and make her cry, if they need to pull colostomy bags off, they're going to do it. Because part of the savage, of course, the idiots doing this don't know that. They're not brain bugs. They're just little minion robots, little biological brainwashed androids, basically aren't even human. They've given their souls over to this, but they'll be replaced with rape robots, groper robots soon enough. By the way, they're working on those. You can look that up. You're going to be searched by groper robots soon. Continuing here, bad economy forces welfare agency hiring spree as it gets worse. And who administers this? J.P. Morgan, Goldman Sachs, the rest of them. So the only part growing in the economy is the welfare agencies who make you take every new vaccine to get your money so you'll be good and poisoned and die early. U.S. alcohol sales raised 2.7% in 2011. People are getting drunk more, so everything collapses, just like in England. That's just some of the news. All right, continuing here with teleprompter-free news, I want to give you the quote of the day. And here it is from Woodrow Wilson, who got set up by the globalists and later started speaking out before they killed him. I have unwittingly ruined my country. A great industrial nation is controlled by its system of credit. The growth of the nation and all activities are in the hands of a few men. We have come to be one of the most worst ruled and one of the most completely controlled and dominated governments in the civilized world. Woodrow Wilson in a letter to a friend that has been published, 28th President of the United States. Okay, we're going to go to break and come back with the one, the only, with a long interview extended with Gerald Celente. I did it right before we shot this part of the news. It's powerful. It's so good, I'm going to air a lot of it tomorrow on the radio. We've got a big extended hour-and-a-half interview with Fritz Springmeier tomorrow, backed by popular demand on the radio, 11 a.m. Central, internet and video streams at prisonplanet.tv and Infowars.com. But if you want to finance what we're doing here and support, we're not like the government that takes your tax money and pays it to MSNBC to say we should turn our guns in. We're funded by you volunteering and becoming a prisonplanet.tv member. We got 15-day free trial going. We're going to extend the 44% off for one more week so folks can get that early bird special on a year membership, 44% off, prisonplanet.tv. And if you're watching this out there on the web with the millions that watch it every week for free, that's great. It's those that are members that pay it forward and finance our operation so we can reach out to you. But think about becoming a member if you haven't been one, if you believe in what we're doing at prisonplanet.tv. All right, that's it for this segment. We'll be right back with Gerald Celente.
We were brought up loving our country and our Constitution. That in the United States of America, we were free. And that's an attitude that we've tried to instill in our children. I met my wife while in the Air Force. I was a combat pilot in Vietnam. I served in Desert Storm as a commander. When I graduated from the academy, I took the oath of office. And as a commander, I administered that oath to many people. Now I wonder about the understanding people have of our Constitution, and I think about our candidates for President of the United States. It's interesting to see the support Ron Paul gets from the military. And if we think back to the code of conduct and people raising their right hand that they were going to support and defend the Constitution of the United States, why would those same people support in great numbers Ron Paul? I think it's because they know that he supports the Constitution of the United States. It doesn't mean you have to go to war to do it. It means you have to understand what the Constitution is and be a supporter inside of your own country, whether you're in the military or not, of that Constitution and make the United States strong. And Ron Paul does that. That's his feeling. That's his thrust. And that's why if you look at the percentages that support him in the military, it's huge. Why is that? Because they've raised their right hands and they're putting their lives on the line for us here in the United States. And they know that Ron Paul does the same.
Because these people aren't playing games. 9/11 was an inside job. 9/11 was an inside job. 9/11 was an inside job. We're going to organize. Humanity's going to come together. We are swinging muskets here, toe-to-toe with the globalists. They're bloodied. We're bloodied. It is absolute, total war. Now, with all of the economic turmoil that was predicted by Gerald Celente and others going on that we covered before we went to break, I wanted to get Gerald Celente on to get his take on what's happening. I mean, again, S&P warns of cuts, another U.S. downgrade coming. That's going to certainly change the way we live. QE3, they're now announcing that after promising a year ago they wouldn't. Housing prices hit post-bubble low. Think about the position we're in here and the very people that we've been bailing out, $16 trillion here, another $10 trillion there, the big mega banks, the white shoe boys, as Gerald Celente calls them. Well, the prostitutes, they're coming out saying that the people that did this to us, they've got the answers for us, and it's raise our taxes, cut our standard of living, and give our money to them. So I wanted to get Gerald Celente on because we've got a few articles here I'm going to show you right now. The Wall Street Journal, all of them reported on what the different people involved investigating the missing $1.2 billion from MF Global. They're saying it vaporized. They're saying it just vaporized. And again, we have those up on screen. We'll show people a couple of those right now. They're just saying that it disappeared, that it went into a black hole somewhere. Now, again, Gerald Celente was a victim of this. They kept his money. Then they changed his statement and said it's been adjusted and took a bunch of his money. But for others, they're getting nothing. Now, it came out within the first 2 days, just to remind you, in Reuters and Forbes, that most of the money had been wired to JP Morgan in London and others. So they know where it went. And now you have, what, a month ago, Corzine caught the head of the CFT, or the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. He came out, Duffy, I guess is his name, and said, hey, he did know. Corzine did know, and I'm not going to lie for him. But Corzine didn't get in trouble for that. So there's the basics. Gerald Celente joins us to give us his take on that and the rest of the world economy. Gerald, thank you so much for coming on with us.
Oh, it's always my pleasure being on with you, Alex.
Man, I tell you, you couldn't write this stuff in a weird science fiction attempt at satire. Kurt Vonnegut, as you know, wrote books about cartoonishly police state, absurdist future realities. This outdoes any of that, Gerald.
Well, it outdoes it, but what it is clear. It's the writing of prostitutes. Look how they use the language, vaporized. Yeah, just disappeared. It vaporized. Could you imagine if one of the White Shoe Boys didn't do this? How about if an Italian, somebody like, a mafia guy was caught? Oh, boy, would it be different. How about if it was somebody that they didn't like was caught? Oh, it would be a whole different story. Vaporized? It was like the Wall Street Journal's guy who wrote the story came from J.P. Morgan Chase. Alex, everybody I know in the industry knows that Corzine knew, J.P. Morgan Chase knew, everybody knew it was coming down. But look, Corzine raised, $500,000 plus recently for the Obama campaign. So it's hands off for him. Anybody that breaks the minor little infraction of the law, man, they got you. And Jack, you're dead, but not him. November, December, January, February, 4 months. 4 months this thing has been going on. Oh, we can't find $1.2 billion. Who could get away with this? Only them, and only with the help of the prostitutes.
Well, I just showed a headline where they were saying, you're just out of luck with your money. I mean, when you wire $1,000, there's a record. When you wire over $10,000, a criminal investigation is opened. He wires $1.2 billion. The head of the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, as you know, comes out and says, hey, he was involved. He did give the order. But Corzine says, hey, I wasn't involved as CEO in this. I mean, and he gets caught lying, and no one gets in trouble. Obama gets caught shipping guns into Mexico to blame the Second Amendment. He's not getting in trouble. I mean, this is ruled by criminals, Gerald. When is it going to end? How bad is it going to get? Because if they're getting away with this, hell, they might just start doing what Blackwater did in Iraq, according to federal documents, just shooting people for fun. I mean, why not? I mean, maybe Corzine will show up at your door with a crap sandwich and make you eat it. I mean, he's God, I guess.
Well, again, and he's not alone here. This is from the Financial Times, just on the 30th, January 30th. Moody's, quote, did not understand $6.3 billion MF Global bet on European debt. Moody's Investor Services did not have any understanding that MF Global, the failed futures broker, had placed a $6.3 billion proprietary bet on the debt of troubled European sovereigns until about a week before the brokerage filed for bankruptcy. Moody's. These are the people that rated all of that junk AAA. These are supposed to be the rating agencies. Oh, we didn't have an understanding. It's all a fix. The whole game is rigged, and they're screwing every one of us. Look how they get away with that kind of crap. And listen, Alex, as you know, that's why I believe that President Obama signed into law the National Defense Authorization Act. So now it allows the military to take out people like you and me who complain because the whole thing is crashing down. As you said, Corzine could show up at your door and make you eat a crap sandwich because he'll have the goons behind him. This is criminality at levels that are actually at biblical proportions. Remember, Christ driving the money changers out of the temple. That's all these guys are. The name changed. It went from money changers to loan sharks. Now we call them bankers and financial experts.
Well, you know, they waited, as you said, almost 4 months to go ahead and just say we're stealing it. They stalled everybody and said, oh, you might get some of it back someday. And then now the government, the media, they're all acting like they don't know where it went. But they already reported where it went. It's just now JP Morgan's like, shut up, you don't know where the money went. Everybody's like, yes, sir, you're our leader. But expanding on what you talked about the ratings agencies, the governments certainly are insolvent. But compared to the mega banks that we give the money to, which they then loan back to us at loan sharking rates, as you said, the ratings agencies, Standard & Poor's, Moody's, all of them, they certify the corrupt banks as wonderful, and their derivative garbage that's worthless is AAA gold, the best it is. And now, at the behest of the banks, they're saying Europe, the U.S., they're lowering credit ratings, so we're in hock to the banksters who are the open fraudsters. I mean, if Corzine can get away with this and the mega banks can get away with it, then we should get Bernie Madoff out of jail and make him king of the earth because, I mean, he's just like them.
Maybe we'll make him, I got an idea. How about Treasury Secretary?
Yeah.
Yeah, he'd be perfect. And again, look at their track record. I was on your show the last time. I read to you from the minutes of the Federal Reserve meeting how they all got it wrong. Bernanke, Geithner, all the people that are telling us what to do. So let's take this over and see what's really going on. Let's flash over to Europe for a moment. Have you seen the latest headlines? Just before Christmas, when no one was watching, as we know, and you reported on it, the European Central Bank dumped in about $700 billion for the banks who are having a money problem. They gave them the money at virtually no interest rates. They used that money so they could buy these worthless bonds from Portugal, Italy, Spain, Greece, and Ireland, and others. And then what they're doing now, this is great. They're going to pump in about another 500, 600 billion to bail out the banks again through the European Central Bank. And by the way, this all ties in, Alex. Have you seen how gold prices have been moving back up?
Yes.
Because the smart money knows what the deal is. You already mentioned that the Fed is hinting about QE3. The European central banks have their QEs going on now. They're devaluing the currencies in front of our eyes. But it gets better.
Oh.
Because now, for the Greeks to get that dough, the Germans just put out a directive, stating that the Greeks have to turn over their sovereignty to the European central banks and the European Monetary Union. That's right. They're not going to be able to do anything as a sovereign government. The European Monetary Union is now taking over Greece. This whole thing is collapsing. I guess the Germans didn't defeat, they occupied Greece a little while during World War II. Now they could occupy it. They've already sent one guy over there to go over their books and tell them how to spend the money. Now they're bringing the whole squad in there again. It's an occupation. The bankers are occupying the world.
And let's be clear. I read it in The Economist, everywhere. They're saying it's good to have the technocrats. And yes, you have no sovereignty in towns in Rhode Island, major cities in Michigan. There's headlines, I know you've seen them because you've covered it, saying no more democracy in this Rhode Island town, no more democracy in this town in Michigan. The state is taking you into receivership, no more city council, and we're going to put a corporation over you, and they're just going to raise all the fees. And you take Greece, as you know, most of their debt is what the government signed them on to for the bankers, and now the bankers who created all this debt, they're going to tell them what to do. But as I also saw an article in Reuters, there's now rebellions in Sicily actually with the real pitchforks because they've taken their guns. The people are going to resist. And I don't think, I'm reading where in Greece they're saying, and in France, that they're going to raise VAT on everybody's businesses and kill them when they're all going bankrupt to pay the bankers. What do they think's going to happen? People are going to start going wild, as you've said.
Exactly. And they're going wild, as you're pointing out. And again, when you think of how ludicrous this is, that we have to bail out the bankers, that a guy who started this under Bush, what was his name? Paulson, the Goldman Sachs guy that was playing Treasury Secretary, made up this whole thing, warned the people that the whole system was falling apart if we didn't come out with TARP and bail out the banks. Obama picked it up, and he doubled up on it about 6 times, along with the Federal Reserve. This whole big lie that we have to bail out the banks. But it's worse than that, because just what they're doing to Greece and Ireland and Italy and Portugal and Spain, they're doing to the everyday person with your credit cards, with your car loans, with your student loans, with your mortgages. Ladies and gentlemen, and children of all ages, you're controlled, owned, signed, sealed, and delivered as a slave for the rest of your life by the bankers, the money changers. Listen, Alex, it didn't make the biblical proportions because it was a small game out there. Again, the only time that Jesus Christ becomes violent is when he picks up a whip to drive the money changers out of the temple, turns over their tables, and guess what? They killed them. That's right.
Well, Gerald, back in 2002, Greg Palast, investigative journalist of BBC, as you know, he was sent documents that were leaked around the time Joseph Stiglitz, who was the head economist there, quit. Stiglitz says he didn't release them, but, it's pretty obvious that it was associated with that. And it said, we've done this in Argentina, we've done it in Africa, other countries in Africa. We're going to get everybody in debt to our fraudulent paper, bankrupt them, then there'll be riots, then we'll bring even more control. That'll drive down the value of everything. Then we can buy everything up. They've maneuvered everybody with unfunded mandates, all this federal government garbage into bankruptcy, and now they're openly doing it. But they did this in the third world before there was an internet, and the third world didn't have guns. They are going to try to totally bankrupt everybody just so they can consolidate everything. I don't see them getting away with it. As a trends forecaster who's been extremely accurate, Gerald, what do you see? Obviously you predicted the Tea Party, uprisings, tax rebellions 5-6 years ago. Now it's all manifesting. But down the road, and I know it's all up to us what ends up happening. The future is fluctuating, but I don't see this ending pretty. Like you said, they're going to start a big war. Now they're getting ready for that political distraction. It's like 2 runaway trains. The globalist making 40-to-1 bets, totally delusional. The public losing their standard of living, getting angry. 3 million guns sold in the month of December, in the U.S. alone. The general public saying they don't trust the government. Congress with a 9% approval rating. I mean, this looks like we're going to see one hell of a confrontation. Oh, yeah. And by the way, just to fill in before I move on to that, all those guys, these hedge fund guys and private equity groups, those thieves, they're moving all into these countries like Italy and Ireland and Portugal and Greece. And they're buying up, that lovely term they have, privatization. That means they sell expensive public assets at pennies on the dollar to their buddies. They're already swooping in there. So what is it going to look like? It was our Autumn Trends Journal of 2010, Off with Their Heads 2.0, and then our Spring Trends Journal of 2011. The first great war of the 21st century. And this is the way it looks. You're going to see more and more civil wars. Then you're going to see regional wars. And then you're going to see world wars. They're going to be going on simultaneously. It's going to be a globe in conflict with no end in sight. And the big one coming, as we believe it is after parsing through the Obama State of the Union address, and I encourage everyone to look at it and read it, he began with war. And he ended it with war. Oh, and by the way, that we should use, to paraphrase what he said in his speech, the great achievements of our military to run the rest of our institutions. That should be our guide. Oh, yeah, they're doing a great job. They haven't won anything since World War II. Oh, I forgot Grenada. Don't, if I get these emails saying how great they were. They lost Iraq. Now, you went to all the great victory parades. You should have seen Bloomberg and Lady Gaga. Oh, was that New Year's Eve? Oh, that's right. They didn't have one this time on Wall Street. Oh, and they're doing a great job in Afghanistan. Yeah, the Afghan soldiers that you're hearing clowns like Chicken Hawk Romney saying we should train so they could take over, and Obama and all the rest of them saying, yeah, they're wiping out our soldiers. Oh, and the lovely war they started in Libya, a civil war. Read the speech, because at the end of the speech, do you know who Obama goes after? That's right, Iran. And if they go to war against Iran, again, you pick up the papers today. Oh, I'm shocked. They're saying at a Senate meeting that Iran, if they're attacked, they're going to retaliate by possibly striking Americans at home. How dare they? How dare they think of that? And what genius could have figured that out? Oh, no, bomb the hell out of them.
No, you're right. Hold on. It's outrageous that if you bomb somebody, they might. Well, I saw a police captain a few months ago when they were beating Occupy Wall Street people. They said balling up is now resisting. So if you even try to block a blow, how dare you? If I walked up and wanted to punch you in the nose and you blocked it and punched me back, you're the bad person.
You see, Alex, this is what happens in third world nations. And this isn't rhetoric, it's fact. You look at the decline in the number of people that own homes. You look at how many people that are unemployed now for well over a year. You look at the gap between the rich and the poor in the United States. It rivals countries like Zambia, according to the CIA World Fact Book. We're way down on the bottom on every list, whether it's from quality of life to education to health care. We don't even come close to win, place, or show. This is what happens in a declining economy. And as I said back in 2008, when we began to bail out the too big to fails, that the merger of state and corporate powers, by definition, is called fascism. So when all these people were calling Obama a Marxist, a socialist, a communist, no, you have it wrong. It's fascist. So fascism is moving in, as you mentioned, what they do in all these third world countries to beat down the people from revolting. The same revolting thing has happened here when on New Year's Eve, President Obama signed in to law the National Defense Authorization Act, that they are going to do everything they can to prevent the people from rebelling against the bank takeover.
Let me ask you a question, Gerald. As the money runs out, as they were announcing last week, they've already raided all the federal pension funds, so the IOUs are even being issued there. You're not going to get the money, and what little bit you do get, it's going to be devalued. What's going to happen with all the minions of the system? I mean, I see articles every day where a guy's walking his dog in a place that's been a dog park forever and says, look, I'm leaving. So the park service that's annexed the park that I've been to in California tasers him in the back, or they arrest a 6-year-old for playing tag and touching somebody on the leg. And then I found out they arrest you if you run at recess, and the Associated Press reports it with a straight face like it's good. Well, you could fall down and hurt yourself. And now TSA is now announcing they're going to be in the parking lots at the airports and on your street corners. I mean, again, it's like a bad movie. It'd be like if you made a joke about a cartoon-level police state. And all these minions of the system, they've hired every malcontent who couldn't get a job, at McDonald's, and they're like these addled, moron, gibbering, pot-bellied control freaks. I mean, do they have any idea what's going to end up happening here?
No, as I said, this is what happens in a third world nation. That's when it runs out of control like this. Hey, listen, Alex, last night I spent 2.5 hours watching the returns coming in from Florida. Painful. You have to devote your life to watching this kind of crap. You want to talk about minions? How about all those clowns clapping and cheering on bad cue from Gingrich and Romney? And I have to tell you, I'm sick and tired of their families being rolled out. I don't care about your family. I hire somebody to do a job. How good are you doing the job? I don't care who your kid is. And they're all out there, and one after another. And then the scene of Gingrich's wife always staring at him adoringly.
That's the next point. They tell him to stand behind him, and I've talked to the politicians, they tell and to all look exactly at them like they're God and just go, and everyone's being real fake, going, it's so, And I mean, look at Romney. I mean, Gingrich is bad too, but Romney raiding, destroying companies, globalist, getting bailout money, all of this, and he acts like he creates jobs. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, again, you're right. He did create jobs, and he brags about it. He created jobs for Staples and Sports Authority. You could have a wonderful career there. I mean, there's a place for you to stock shelves. Or how about one of those wonderful cashier jobs where you could put things in bags and then hand them to people and say, thank you, have a nice day. Oh, and Sports Authority, the same thing. Wonderful. He put out of business all those people that used to own stationery stores. He put out of business all those people that used to own sporting goods stores. A corporate greedy vulture. That's all they are, one after another. And you asked about the minions? They clap like little kids. I told you, the worst job I ever had was when I was the assistant to the Secretary of the New York State Senate. I'd be BSing with my buddy in the back of the chamber, a young guy, my 20s. All of a sudden, a senator would walk in. My buddy would leave me like a little puppy dog, pull out the chair, and help the senator sit down. He'd come back. I said, what's the matter, man? The cat can't sit down by himself. He needs some help. That's all this is. It's losers sucking up and bowing down, hoping to move up the ladder a little bit. whether it's those fat boys that you were talking about with the pot bellies that so bravely taser people or beat the hell out of them with their billy clubs while I got 80 of their buddies around with them, or those little creeps on TV clapping and cheering at every lame word that spews out of the greedy vultures' mouths. And one more thing, and I want to make this really clear. I am, as you well know, a political atheist. I do not believe in anybody's political gods, and I am sick and tired of turning on the television and watching Ari Fleischer, that creep that worked for George Bush, that got us into the Iraq War. You remember him. If you're not with us, you're against us. Him. And all of these other ones, that guy Carville, the Clinton creator, that cat's from another planet, man. And one after another telling me that I have to believe in their political God. I am tired of these missionaries out on the street telling me that I have to believe in their political religion. These are false religions. These are false gods. They are political gods that are corrupting the entire system.
And you notice there's one guy who points out that it's a fantasy land, one real candidate, so they give him the least amount of time, they demonize him, they say he can't win, and the bumper stickers are everywhere, everybody's endorsing him. There's clearly, they caught him in South Carolina and Iowa, there's fraud. Ron Paul is definitely right in second, probably even first place from what I've seen. It turned out Mitt Romney and Gingrich have to pay most of the people to be at their events. There was an article, 92% Gingrich got caught of his tweets are fake. They can't even get audiences. Take MSNBC, their biggest shows might have 1 million. Fox, a couple million. It's incredible. My show has millions of listeners, Gerald. You have millions of people that follow what you're doing. But their advertising is $20,000 a minute, and mine's $300 because I don't have big multinational corporations paying a tithe not to get a response back on products, but to shove propaganda down people's throats. This is what they are doing. It's fake. It's a paper tiger. And that's what I wanted to raise for you next. Your take on where the stuff is happening with Ron Paul and the fact I see it as a good sign that they're trying to bring in open internet censorship, open arrest of citizens, and disappearing us into black holes. It's really waking people up. You've got zombies and paid people that go clap for Gingrich and you know, Romney and the rest of them. But they're getting deeper into mind control. But the other group, what I'm seeing is a separation happening. Those that are awake are waking up at a deeper level, and more people than ever are apologizing to myself. Talk shows I go on, people in the streets. I mean, folks now are really starting to get it, and they're really going to wake up when they lose everything.
They will. But again, let's go back to where we are. We're stuck in this political fundamentalism that we have only the choice of very bad and very terrible. What kind of self-respecting adult would say when they go to the polls on election day, I voted for the lesser of two evils? It's a fundamentalism. This is what I'm trying to say. You have all these missionaries out there throwing their crap on top of you, trying to convince you why you should believe in those political gods. What's going to happen? I believe, you know, I used to run political campaigns. That's how I began my career in Westchester County in New York. And at the time, that was the richest county in the world. And I have to tell you, I'm disappointed in the way Ron Paul's campaign is being run, and particularly with him, in the sense that he has to get out there and fight. And the staging is terrible that they use for him. At one of the ones, I think it was after South Carolina, there's a little 12-year-old kid clapping at every stupid word, every word. And it has to become more serious, and it's unfocused. And people that I know that like him are having difficulty grabbing onto it, that are ready to change.
Well, I agree with you. I mean, Ron Paul's in the arena. We support him. He's done a lot. His people are exhausting him, I think, with all this retail stuff. He needs to attack dog, tell the people during the questions to shut up and stop censoring me, and just call the others out for the scum they are. But again, he's a doctor. He's a gentleman. He's 76 years old. I mean, but the fact is that...
Listen, I'm 65 years old. And I don't care who it is. I don't care how old they are. I'm not going to take their crap if they lay it on me.
I hear you.
I'm respectful to everybody. But when they become disrespectful to me, it's another story.
Oh, I agree.
And we're talking about running the United States of America here. And he has to stand up and speak out. Romney BSing about, I created these jobs.
All right, let me stop you right there because I know you don't have a lot of time, and I want to ask you this question. Okay, I'm going to give you 2 minutes here, and then I'm going to do the same thing. Let's say you're Ron Paul, and you've got Romney, the corporate shill, Kendall, and you've got Gingrich, the demonic goblin, and they're right there. What do you say to them? You're Ron Paul.
I'd say, first of all, to Romney, I should stop the crap about the jobs you created. You put every mom and pop out of business from the businesses that you gobbled up. And I'm sick and tired of you dragging out your family and telling how much better you are than anybody else. And for you, Gingrich, I heard enough of your crap to last me a lifetime. You're nothing but a blowhard, and you've been feeding off the public trough your whole life, and it shows. And you have no solutions for doing anything other than throwing your arrogance out here. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm bringing the troops home. I'm going to cut the military down to size. And I also disagree with Ron Paul. We need regulations. I got F by MF Global. It's not as though you're going to let the corporations run free and they're going to be so kind and generous. So, no, he has to stand, and he's talked enough about the Fed. The average person doesn't understand it. The people that support him already got it.
Okay, that's good. Now, if I was Ron Paul, this is what I would say. Number one, in every debate I've been given the least amount of time, the least amount of coverage, and you keep saying I can't win. That's insulting the voters and viewers out there. So stop playing mind control. This isn't a real debate. Study Lincoln Douglas. Study debates 50 years ago. Study an hour of Nixon and Kennedy really going at each other. That's a real debate, okay? Stop controlling everything. That's what I'm going to say, number one. Number two, let's talk about you, Romney. It's on record that you've supported and pushed abortion. Now you say you want to ban it. Regardless of which side we're on, you're a liar and a deceiver and different for every audience. You say you're against carbon taxes, but in the past, you actually supported it. You say you're against Obamacare. You are the model of what they ended up going with, because it's actually a fascist model where it forces people to buy insurance and lets the government control the type of care and control doctors. I could go on and on with you about your flip-flopping and deception and how Bain Capital came in and bought up profitable companies and sold them off and fired everybody and bought things up for pennies on the dollar. I could also talk about the fact that you're involved in so many other forms of corruption, and that the last head of Bain Capital, which you're still heavily invested in, just replaced that mob boss Daley, who just left the White House, and replaced him over there. There's not a degree's worth of difference between you and Obama, and that's why the corrupt elements of Wall Street, the big mega zombie banks that have stolen tens of trillions of taxpayer money, are filling your coffers just like Obama. Follow the money. You are the man's minion. You are the people that have destroyed this country. You are the problem. And Newt Gingrich is another stinking clone, supporting carbon taxes, supporting open borders, globalism, wars, all of it. You people are a bunch of anti-American creeps, and I'm the real candidate. And if America wants something to really change, vote for Ron Paul 2012. If you don't, you were warned, and you're asking for the raping you're going to get.
I'm on your side. And you said it too. They always talk to him. And like last night, I heard Mouse Blitzer over there talk to Ron Paul, and he said to him, "Well, you know, you're putting out some good some good issues, even though you're not going to get the nomination. He said that.
Yeah, they play this mind control like because they say.
Who the hell are you, Mouse? These pundits have been wrong on every call. I'm sick of them. And as I said, Alex, it goes back to we are stuck in a political fundamentalist society. We are not allowed to think nor support anyone out of the Republican and Democratic Church. It's as simple as that. If you're not a member of their religion, you have no place in America because they're the ones that make the laws. The church members of the Republican and Democrat evangelical fundamentalists make all the laws for us to obey, not for them, just us.
Wow. Well, I got to tell you, Gerald, powerful, powerful, powerful interview here today. All I can say is the good news. I've never seen people more disgusted with the system. I've never seen more people quietly not complying. I've never seen more police and military. You see the military, majority of donations to Ron Paul. I've never seen, and think where we were 4 years ago, awakening-wise, where we are now. I mean, I don't see the system getting out of this. And I just hope and pray and we remember that after we go through all this hell and third worldom and everything we're going to have to deal with, that we don't just let these banksters skate. Because these people are financial terrorists, as you and others have said. They are criminals. And every generation faces a new type of tyranny. These aren't guys dressed up in dictator outfits. They're even more dangerous because they're a slimy group of con artists with a bunch of fancy propaganda. But it doesn't matter how fancy it is. So, a meal may look like a great meal, but if you bite into it and it's plastic or wax food, you're going to go, this is fake. And so good luck to the system. Just keep it up and rob everybody. Gerald, I've seen you change. You're smart, focused, great guy. You're my mom's favorite guest, and my mom rarely gives me opinions on the radio, but there's a few people she doesn't like. They don't come back on the show. My mom says something about it. She goes, I love Gerald Celente. But I got to tell you, my mother, just 6, 7, 8 years ago, believed a lot of what I said, but she still didn't think the world was that bad. She now just absolutely hates the whole system, and it's happening everywhere. And let me tell you, when older women and people are getting pissed and hating the system, and when just the general public is, the New World Order's in trouble. I mean, they're in trouble.
Oh, it's big trouble. And by the way, a lot of my fans as well are the military guys. I get a lot of response back from them and thanking me. Chaplains, all sergeants, you name it, except generals. We're not, we don't like each other, because all these guys are Boy Scouts, they went from Boy Scout to Eagle Scout to ROTC and kept sucking their way through the system. But really, no, it's ready to change. And I make it clear, and I make it clear in every Trends Journal. The future is in your hands. Everyone out there, it's in my hands. It's in our hands. When people regain the dignity, respect, courage, and passion to create the future that they deserve, everything will change. They will not put up with this baloney that they're feeding us, force-feeding us. And you pointed it out, Alex. How many people watch, more people listen to your show than these other ones? How many people watch, some of the debates? It's like Jersey Shore and American Idol beat them like 12-1.
Yeah, that's the problem, though. A lot of people are tuning out of the politics and just giving up, but there is a larger and larger group that's actually getting involved. It's no doubt it's going to get crazy. Gerald, we've had your website up there on screen. We'll put it back up. I know you've got several web addresses. They go back to the same place, but briefly, here at the end, people need to get your weekly updates. The articles that are there, the email alerts, but they can also get the hard, thick journal that really is nuanced and breaks all this down.
Yeah, here it is. Here I am on the cover. Wanted.
A terrorist. Show us that again. There he is.
Here I am. I'm danger to society. Trendsjournal.com, trendsjournal.com. And as you know, Alex, we try to make it available to everyone. We know people are having a difficult time. So there's a discount request form. Just fill it out. No private information, just a little bit of information so we know what we can do to help you. Because people better prepare for what's coming ahead. And I can say this with full confidence. There's no publication in the world that shows you history before it happens other than the Trends Journal.
You know, I just got an idea, and I'm sure you already do this. What if people want to buy it in bulk to leave it at the dental office, the barber shop, to give it to their pastor?
Oh, we do that as well. And we, as I said, we accommodate everyone that we can. And we encourage them to do it. And again, you know my motto, think for yourself. If the Trends Journal doesn't live up to your expectations, you get all your money back.
Gerald, you're awesome. Thank you so much for spending time with us. Why the cover, Enemy of the State, Gerald Celente, wanted for speaking the truth, America with a K?
Well, because of the National Defense Authorization Act, people like you and I are now belligerents. They could call us belligerents of the state. No jury, no charges, no judge, no trial. They just ship us off. The president signs off on it, and Jack, you're dead.
Isn't that an indictment of themselves? I mean, I saw Lindsey Graham and all of them getting off and saying, we want to scare you. You ask for your lawyer, no lawyer for you. They're all sweating. Lieberman's saying, I want you to be scared. I mean, aren't they just indicting themselves? I mean,
look at who these people are. None of us would ever hang out with them. Could you imagine having lunch with Lindsey Graham? Sitting next to Newt Gingrich? I wouldn't have any. Who would deal with these people? Again, Alex, these are the people you hated in high school and college. Now they're telling us what to do. They follow their career path from president of the class and head of the student council to senator, congressman, and Mr. President.
They're a bunch of demonic Eddie Haskells. Let me ask you this last curveball at the end, just because I thought of it here, and you know I love to do long interviews. Gerald, we appreciate your time. What do you think should be done about California passing a law that they're going to vaccinate your kids without your permission? New Jersey, Arkansas, others, because cities are passing laws taking fluoride out, which they know is poisonous to the bones and things. But let's say it's great for you. The point is they're forcing forced medication. Now that people aren't doing it voluntarily under pressure, they're now trying to pass laws to make us. Anybody tries to vaccinate my kids, it's over. I'm done at this point. I mean, they're trying to assault us.
Alex, it's the chemical industry. It's all it is. It has nothing to do with laws. It has to do with lobbyists. It has to do with who's in control. Big pharma, big agriculture, military-industrial complex. Oh, look at the broadcasting world. Who's it owned by? A handful. So it's their agenda to sell more of their poisons, just like the fast food and the soda people sell their crap. So they have the politicians. Again, look at who the politicians are. And I know firsthand, you could buy these guys off really cheaply. And that's what they've done. Because you buy off a politician with the politician's belief that with the more money they get, they're going to be able to get reelected. And that means they get a job where they don't have to work and they could tell other people what to do. So all it is in California, let's not confuse it. It's Big Pharma who's bought off puny little politicians so that they could sell more of their drugs.
Listen to this. I was reading some of the numbers that you see come out where they'll buy committee chairmen, big companies for like $50,000 a year and then get in subsidies and shutting down their competition billions back. $50,000 and you get billions. These guys sell out, you're right, for nothing.
I know. I was there. I watched it. So I know what it is. And so that's all it is. And that's what the people have to understand. It's about you. It's about your dignity and courage and respect and passion. When people find more of it within themselves, then everything will change. And we have to stop this bottom line mentality. Everything that you buy, everything that you wear, everything that you eat, make sure it's quality. Less is more, whether it's in architecture or living well. buy quality, support local, and speak up, and do not let these political missionaries throw their proselytizing jive down your throat.
Well said. Gerald Celente, thank you so much for spending time with us today. And if you've got a moment, I'm about to end the show. I'd like to say bye to you in a moment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I like Gerald because he's a smart guy, but he's also angry. And it makes me angry to see people having their rights violated and run over. And it makes me more angry to see him laying down to it. I mean, if people just woke up to how we're being screwed, now the TSA is trying to train us to be slaves, and I see the public bowing to police in public and acting scared. I see families. I see kids scared of cops now. It's just, our country's going to hell in a handbasket, and so's the whole world. And we're here to give the alternative, which is about just basic, old-fashioned waking up and not being a slave. I mean, think about people back in the Founding Fathers' days. You read the Declaration of Independence. It's all the same stuff that's happening now, but a lot less of it. And they were ready to stand up against an empire never defeated and started killing people. I'm not saying go to that. I'm saying let's get involved. Let's make a noise. Let's do banner hangs, websites, get angry, vote with your dollars like Gerald says. All right, that's it for this edition. We've extended the early bird special, 44% off on a yearly membership. We're going to run that for the rest of the week. It's been so popular. You pay for 6.7 months, you get 5.3 months free. And we have 100% full access, 15-day free trial that we're going to run continually also at prisonplanet.tv. You are funding the alternative media. And this interview, a lot of the really hot interviews we do on the Nightly News, we then re-air for everybody on the syndicated radio show where it reaches up to 3 million people a day. So again, thank you so much for joining us. The world's going to get crazier, but we're going to find out we have a lot of allies. And a lot of people we thought were allies, we're going to find out they're enemies. But the wheat from the chaff's getting separated right now. Great job with the crew. Again, we'll see you back tomorrow night.